Carl Machine Tools represents WFL mill-turn technologies in the UK. We're here in Linz, Austria, at the world premiere at the M200.
MTDCNC, bringing you the latest engineering news via video media.
Simon, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be at the world premiere of the M200. Could you tell me a little bit more about this machine?
Well, first of all, Mark, thank you for coming to WFL in Linz this week. It's a pleasure to have you here at the introduction of the M200, which is, as you just said, a world premiere. The machine here, as you can see, is a huge machine, and it represents a step change in design for WFL. Before we had the M150, which went up to 1.5, or we did have an option to take it up to 1.6 metre swing. The M200 goes up to 200 metre swing, and this is a 6.5 metre bed machine, but we will go up to 14 metres. This is to serve the oil and gas industry, also the energy markets, large shafts in the generator industry, heavy duty engineering, and also we see a market in aerospace for large undercarriage workpieces.
And I understand, looking at the figures, that it actually holds up to 60 tonnes.
Yes, it does. That's colossal. There aren't many machine tools around that weigh 60 tonnes, so for a machine of this proportions to take a component that weighs 60 tonnes, I think the 6.5 metre machine behind me here is about 220 tonnes installed, so it's quite a colossal machine. We have spent 3 years developing this new model to cater for these large components, and we've introduced 1 or 2 new design changes to the concept of the machine to allow us to go up to this size and weight of component.
And does it open up opportunities for existing customers but also new?
Definitely. We have several of our established customers already looking at the machine with serious intent, and also it obviously gives us the opportunity to open up new markets and new opportunities within the UK manufacturing environment.
And I suppose, obviously, bearing in mind the size of the machine, it needs to go into a pit, so it's a very, very sort of long thinking, look forward thinking, I'm going to buy this machine in a few years.
Oh, it's definitely not an ex-stock type sale. It's a project-based sale with a turnkey solution. I think in almost every case it'll be like that. The projects that we're currently looking at offer some very complex components, but we can see for the customer some massive savings in production times, because instead of moving these large components around the workshop 4 or 5 times, or maybe up to 7 or 8 times in some instances, if we can process through the machine in 2 operations, that's going to save a tremendous amount of time. And we can take lead times for manufacturing a part from sort of maybe 4 or 5 months down to a month, and that's got huge advantages for work in progress as well.
If any new customers are looking for this type of machine or any WFL machine, obviously they can contact you through Carl Machine Tools.
Yeah, Carl Machine Tools represent WFL in the UK. We've been their sales and service and warranty distributor since the early 90s, and personally I've been involved for the last 10 years with WFL, and it's been a pleasure working with them, and they've got excellent engineering and application support, which obviously a machine of this type especially requires. If you look at the lead time for a machine of this type, then the customers are generally looking at maybe 2 to 2.5 years, depending on the complexity of the component that we're going to manufacture. We're looking at probably an 18-month lead time, probably 6 months for the turnkey development side of the component machining environment, and then probably 6 months as an installation and introduction to their manufacturing facility before we can hand it over to full production. So it's a machine that you've got to plan for, and you've got to be planning into the future, because if you want a machine tomorrow, this is not the one for you. So it's forward-thinking companies with an eye on the future, and it's a way for them to reduce their manufacturing costs going forwards.